It's a parallel universe. Jeremy Lefebvre is working at Quick Trip in 2023, and he's just figured out what this thing, the stock market, is going on. And you've got $1,000 to invest, and a little bit of monthly reoccurring savings you can add to the stock market going forward. You've got $1,000. What do you spend it on?
Ooh, great question. So first thing is for the newer investors, I mean, income and expenses. You mentioned it had some recurring revenue. Like you got to have more income than expenses. It's such an it's one of the most important things to being a successful investor, but it's so overlooked. If you don't have more income than expenses every month, you've got to fix that ASAP. If you want to be an actual stock market investor, because there's no worse feeling than stocks going down, the market going down, you seeing a great opportunity, not being able to buy that opportunity because you've got more expenses than income, or you've got nothing at the end of each month. You better have money. Okay. So I think that just needs to be said off the front. So if I'm a new investor, the thing I would focus on is value stocks first, which is the same route I went, value stocks and dividend stocks. And I know a lot of people, when they first get in the market, especially a lot of younger folks in the newer generation, they like to just go straight to the growth stocks, right? I want this and this, the growth. But at the end of the day, value and dividend stocks are so much easier to wrap your head around as a newer investor. And the reason being is they usually have very consistent business models. They have relatively easy to predict financials, P ratios that are usually very easy to understand. With growth investing, especially for a lot of newer investors, unless you get in at a kind of a perfect time, right? Which after you've gone through kind of a crash, you usually have a very good time as a beginner, which leads to too much confidence. So let's say, for instance, there were some people that got in right after the Rona crash of 2020, and they bought in some growth stocks and then they thought they were geniuses, right? And then obviously in this most recent crash we had, some folks have definitely bought some growth stocks and they think they know it all now and they don't need to, upgrade their game. That's usually danger. Start with value stocks, start with dividends, get your head around those, figure out how to run valuations on those companies, figure out if you're getting a good deal or not a good deal, be able to look back at the history of these stocks, be able to look at competitors. It's so much easier to judge, a Procter and Gamble versus XYZ company that has, 45% growth expected next year, but last year they revenue shrunk 20% for some crazy reason. And this year, no one knows what they're going to do for numbers, right? So, but once I get that rolling, I'd buy a few stocks, buy maybe 3-4 stocks to get started in the market with that first $1,000. You can maybe divvy it up, 4 stocks, $250 a pop, right? And some of these value dividend stocks. As you get more experience, more knowledge, more understanding of how to run financials, projections, what's a fair PE, what's a fair forward PE, what's a good balance sheet versus a bad balance sheet, income statements and things like that. Now we can at least start to approach some more of the growth stocks, right? Some more of the companies that businesses are maybe a little more of a roller coaster ride that's not as consistent. But make sure you get that foundation work first, because it's like, I come from the sports world way before I was ever a stock market investor, right? And so in sports, you build your body a specific way in the off season for success. You don't just go straight in the off season and start, doing max bench press and max squat or something like that. Like you don't train your body that way. You actually start with usually your core. And any good coach out there is always going to get you to get in good shape, get your endurance in, get your core right. And then we can start building out from there. And you'll usually do a lot more repetitions. And as you get closer and closer to the series part of the season, you're going to do less repetitions, whether it's football, track, whatever you're training for. And so it's the same exact philosophy in stock market investing. Build a strong core first, branch out from there, and then in a matter of a few years, then you're going. And especially for young people are always in such a race. And I'm like, you've got time on your hands, man. If you're 65 and you're just trying to start learning investing, you're kind of in a bit of a race. But for a lot of people that are probably watching this video, you're 20s, 30s, you got a lot of time. Make sure you're working with urgency, but make sure you're getting your foundation right. If your foundation is not right, your house is going to collapse. It's like building a house, man. If the foundation is not right, the whole thing's going to fall in. It's just a matter of, is it going to fall in next year, or the year after, or 3 years from now? Getting that foundation right will get you through the bear markets. They'll get you through the crash markets. That's what got me through last year, because I've been doing this for a while. I got my foundation right, and I got hit and I got smacked last year in 2022, certainly, but I made it through to the other side and on to bigger and better things. So that's the thing I could preach.
If you could give yourself, broke Jeremy, one piece of advice on the back of a lesson that you've learned, what was the lesson? What is the advice?
Oh my gosh, there's so dang many, man. So many lessons. Oh gosh.
Which
I
is,
mean,
I guess, is actually great to hear because this is the
yeah,
reality of investing in the stock market. There's gonna be some
yeah.
losses. There's gonna be some lessons learned.
Yeah, there's going to be so many lessons. I mean, there's so many lessons I have around either mistakes I made with a stock in terms of buying a wrong stock or continuing to buy it, or situations where I sold a stock way too early. I've held some of the greatest companies ever. I sold a lot of those companies. Nvidia, I used to hold shares of Nvidia, and I sold, and I missed out on a 10x plus of Nvidia shares. Monster Energy, back when it was Hanson's Natural Beverage, one of the greatest stocks in the past 20 years of being in the stock market. I held that stock. And unfortunately, as of today, I have no shares in that stock. So I've made a lot of blunders when it comes to seeing the vision for this company, and like, this is going to be huge, and then taking my profits way too soon. So there's a million of them. But the main one I would say, you got to outwork people. You got to outwork, the world's competitive. The ones who always win are the ones that outwork their competition. If you are not willing to outwork your competition and do things that other people just won't do, you're not going to advance. And I've seen it consistently just in my own life, never mind like friends and peers, and I've seen it in their lives, but I've seen it in my own life. Like in track, I always had to outwork everybody. When I worked at Walgreens, outworked everybody so I could get at least good hours at my store. At Quick Trip, I outworked everybody. A lot of people didn't want to get up at 4 a.m. or they, sometimes would slack or whatever. And I just made sure I grinded and gave it 100%. And I'd get promotions. I'd get the best bonusing stores, so I had more money to put in the market. Stock market investing, looking into stocks, researching the stocks. You can't slack on any of this stuff because you will be beat. And, I've obviously been thankful to have a tremendous amount of success on YouTube. 4 silver play buttons. There's only one other finance creator in the world who has 4 in the finance community that has 4 silver play buttons. He's my neighbor, and we're the only 2 in the whole world that are in the finance community that have 4 silver play buttons. And it's just grind, man. You've got to outwork everybody. A lot of people, want to take a day off. Like, hell with this, man. And you can do that, and you can still have a level of success. You just got to understand, like, if you really want to push it, you've got to dig places in you that just other people are just like, oh no, they're crazy, man. I'm not willing to do that. And that's when you have the most success, I guess you can say. And when you can look back at yourself and be like, damn, I'm proud I did that. And I can tell you, there's so much hard work I put in my life in different areas that I'm like, I'm so happy I did that, because if I didn't do that, I would not be here today. If I was not reading annual reports at midnight when I was 21 years old while other people were out partying, I can tell you I wouldn't be here today. If I wasn't willing to work at Quick Trip and work those overnight shifts at stores I didn't really want to work at in bad areas and stuff like that, I can tell you I wouldn't be here. And so when you look back on your life and you realize where you're at then at that point in time, and you look back, it's like a full circle moment where you're like, damn, man, like, thank you. Thank you for putting in that grind, because that was worth it. That was worth it. I haven't met somebody yet that didn't work their face off and was like, oh, it didn't pay off. Every single person I ever know that like really went after it, man, over a 3-5 year span, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm happy I did it. It was brutal, but I'm happy I did it because it paid off, and it paid off big.
This video is, of course, mainly based on the stock market, but if it was you and you only had $1,000 to your name which you could invest, do you think you'd be maybe better served launching a business or maybe trying something else before you do jump directly into the stock market, or a bit of both at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I would get started with investing as early as possible, unless there's some vision you have of like, this is going to work and I'm going to do this. I need to spend $1,000 there. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to investing and being able to make your money into money without you having to put an effort to that. As any person that has been successful in their business, what they wish they knew was how to invest. Because then imagine you build a successful business, okay? And imagine, you sell it for $5 million. You have this great exit. Okay, I made $5 million. What do you do with the $5 million? You put it in a savings account now? Do you try to invest it and make your money into money, right? Are you stressing because now you're like, damn, I don't know how to invest? So at the end of the day, I would always get started with investing as early as possible. You can do a lot of things. Like people are like, well, I can't focus on this. Yes, you can. I used to work 3 jobs, run for my college full time, and take, I don't know how many credit hours, a ton of credit hours in terms of classes and all that stuff, and still had a social life and still did stock market. Like you can freaking do it. And so I would say to everybody out there, like, get rolling with it ASAP. Don't make excuses. People love to make excuses. It's just an excuse. Just understand. Every time you say, I don't have time right now, baloney. You got freaking time. You can make the time. You're choosing not to search for the time. And that's a choice you can make. Just understand the only person you're fooling is yourself. Anybody that really goes after it, yeah, we don't make excuses like that. We're like, we'll find the time. We'll make it work. And that's what differentiates the people that are extremely successful from the people that are just, kind of going along in life.